Got a question from Thatcoast on YouTube. It says, what did you learn during purple belt that you still use as a black belt? What changed the most from purple to black belt? So it's a good question. So if you watch the videos, maybe you know this, but purple belt was an interesting belt for me. There was a lot of different changes going on. So my original gym that I trained at from white into the beginning of my purple belt phase of training, it was a hard-nosed gym, right? Like, it was nothing like what most of you guys experience today. Some of you guys, yes, but not most of you guys. Like when we came in, I mean, we were battling out hardcore every single day. It was a very small gym, very competition focused. That's all we were doing. Competition and MMA focused. Everything was about fighting and competition. And so we were all trying to win. Like we were trying to battle and beat each other every single day. I remember one of my black belts, a couple of my black belts trained with me back there when we were younger, right? And I remember we talked about this where basically we're battling each other and our coach would sit that back and watch us, and maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we did something like you could tell, like when you lost, it was kind of like, you have failed me, right? Like we jokingly say, we're like, please love me, daddy. Like we're rolling, right? Because we could tell if our coach saw us do something wrong or make a mistake or whatever, he would get frustrated with us. And so we didn't really expand our games very much. We got really good at a very select few things, and that's what we did over and over again. And I noticed something was happening as a purple belt. When I got my purple belt, I remember I started to go to purple belt tournaments, and I wasn't faring very well. Because at purple belt, white and blue belt, I did great. But at purple belt, I went through this phase where all of a sudden I'm going against these guys who are very technical and from different positions. And in some places, they're probably on par with like black belt level skill in a very small, select area of their game. And I was getting destroyed at competitions in the beginning. I wasn't used to this. I went from like winning everything as a, like, not everything, but I placed at almost every friggin' tournament I did as a white and blue belt. And then I got to purple belt, and it was like I was getting smoked. Didn't like that. And if I didn't smoke someone, if they didn't smoke me, then I was winning off of like horsepower, cardio, and athleticism. I wasn't winning because I was technically superior. And there were a few other things going on, but I ended up leaving the gym that I was training at back then. And I started training with what would be my coaches for several years afterwards, Colin and Kyle. Started training with them. And I remember they came to me one day as a purple belt, and they were saying, listen, bro, if you want to get your brown belt, you've got to expand your game. You do like the same 6 things over and over again, and you don't do anything else. And they were telling me this after I had just lost another tournament, getting basically out finessed by a guy who had more technique. And when they told this to me, I was resistant to the idea because, again, coming from wrestling originally, I was competing all the time. So we were trying to battle it out to win competitions. And then going into a very hard-nosed competition gym, we're always battling. I had never really had a phase of like exploration, playing around with stuff, allowing myself to lose and be okay with it. That was really tough for me. My ego was very wrapped around winning, and it was part of my self-worth, right? So as a purple belt, I had to yield to that. I had to sort of give way to that. I had to say, you know what? I'm going to play with these different positions, and I'm going to be okay with losing because it's going to happen, because I understand that I'm going to get worse and I'm going to get better because of it. And that's what happened. So as a purple belt, there was this dip in my game because I went from having a pretty tough game to all of a sudden I'm now expanding and sampling everything else. And my game did this for a while. I remember I didn't compete a whole lot at that middle phase of purple belt because I was going through this, right? This lasted about 1.5 years or so, maybe a year. And then all of a sudden I noticed my game started to come up, and I started to have more technical options, and I was getting much, much better. And I started to have a bottom game that was very effective. I started to have a top game that was much more technical. I could actually pass people with thought rather than just like muscling through things. And again, it happened because I was willing to get worse before I got better. And that was something that stuck with me from now until, forever, right? Like it was one of the best lessons I got at purple belt. It wasn't something technical. It was like, oh, when we're working on something new, we are going to suck because we have not trained in this position, but it's okay because it will make us better in the long run, right? Because when we move to those places where fear and discomfort come up, that's typically where we have the most growth, and tons of good things are going to come from this. And so that is the best thing I got as a purple belt that changed me as a jiu-jitsu competitor, changed me as a person, but it changed my jiu-jitsu. And as a black belt, that's something I go back to now. Like even now, I'm using a different passing position that I'm testing out right now. And, there's times where it's hard because I want to go back to what I'm best at, but I'm not going to do that because that's not where I'm going to get more technical. That's not where I'm going to expand my game. And so for any of you guys watching that, in whatever belt you're at, if that's something you struggle with, then learn a little idea from the Chewster, right? Be willing to, during these periods of technical like exploration and expansion, when you're trying to test things out, right? If you're getting ready for a competition, sharpen the weapons that you already have and get those ready. But when it comes to actually expanding your game and becoming more well-versed and more broad in your technical knowledge, you've got to be willing to sort of allow yourself to be worse at something, to lose and be okay with it. And again, losing is not learning. I mean, people say that and they try to like flower it up. It's okay to lose. It's okay to have that sting because it's going to make you take notice to what you're doing anyway, right? So anyway, just an idea to chew on. Thatcoast, thank you for the message, bro. And hopefully that gives you your answer. Talk to you guys next time.